Hi everyone and welcome to today's video. Today, as it's probably self-explanatory from the title of the video, I'm going to be talking through my autumn TBR. If you are new here, just to give you a little overview, I am a mood reader, and although I do like to have some structure to my TBRs, I just wouldn't stick to a monthly one. I have a random generator that I use to throw up a few books to help me make my way through my very large pile of unread books, but I do like to try and build in some flexibility to read things just because I want to read them, because that's how I enjoy reading. So I like to have structure, but not too much structure, so I set myself these seasonal TBRs instead. Just to very quickly recap on my summer TBR, I'm not going to be rolling any of the books forward. I just felt like a little bit of a clean slate, and I managed to read just over half of the books on my summer TBR, which I think is pretty good going, especially given that me actively putting a book on my TBR can sometimes be the kiss of death in terms of me then going on to read it. So all that to say, let's jump in and start talking about the books. I have got probably the same number that I would usually have, although I have 3 non-fictions, and I'm not sure if I will get to all 3 of those or if I'll just pick 1 or 2. There are also going to be 3 books missing because I'm reading 3 books for a special challenge that I'm doing and filming. So while they are technically on my TBR, they're not going to appear in this video. So the first book that I am hoping to read is The Book Club by C.J. Cuppa. Autumn for me is definitely about mystery, it's about thrillers, it's about those kind of cozy late night reading experiences, and I think that this one will fit the bill fairly solidly. So it's about a young woman who moves to a sleepy village and she joins the village book club, and each member of the book club is harbouring some kind of secret. One of those secrets is murder, and through the books that they start to read as a book club, these secrets begin to emerge, and we're just kind of following the outfall of that. I think the young woman, Alice, begins to stir things up with her arrival and perhaps has her own agenda in the books that she starts to suggest for the book club. So yeah, very much looking forward to this one. As with most psychological thrillers, don't want to know too much going in, happy to go along for the ride, but I think that it sounds great. Then we have A Time for Mercy by John Grisham, again along kind of thriller mystery books. So it's been a while since I have read a John Grisham. I was underwhelmed with the last few of his books that I read, but I'm really hoping for good things from this, mainly because we are returning to Clanton, Mississippi, and we are reconnecting with a character that is well known to Grisham fans, which is Jake Brigance of A Time to Kill and Sycamore Rose. So we are returning to see what Jake has been up to, and in this particular book he has been tasked with defending a 16-year-old cop killer, and there's no mystery about it. The young boy definitely did it, but as with most of John Grisham's books, I'm imagining that it's not going to be as clear-cut as that. So yes, certainly have high hopes for this. Really hope it's like the Grisham of old, especially because A Time to Kill and Sycamore Row are 2 of my favourite. They're not my favourite of all time, but I did particularly like the cleverness of A Time to Kill. So yeah, another one to add to the list. Next we have The Appeal by Janice. Hallett, if you saw my last book haul video, then you will know that I was upsold this by the salesperson in Waterstones when I went in for a quick browse, and they were just singing its praises. So I actually know very little about it, other than it is a murder mystery. Actually, there's a bit of a theme with the first 3 of these books. It's a murder mystery set in a small town, and it features an amateur dramatics society, and it's told in the form of letters and emails, and that is pretty much all I know, other than the salesperson in Waterstones could not stop singing the praises of this book. Kind of don't want to know anything else, happy to just go in and go along for the ride, but yeah, one that I'm looking forward to. Next up we have Bone China by Laura Purcell. Hopefully this is going to give me the creepy thriller vibes that I'm looking for in autumn, although hopefully not too creepy. And it has been a while since I picked up a Laura Purcell book. I read and adored The Corset. I feel like I've talked about her as an author an awful lot in the last year. I just haven't got around to picking any of her other books up. This is going to change that, I hope. So This is historical fiction. I believe we have 2 timelines. So we have our earlier timeline with a Dr. Pinecroft who believes he has some kind of revolutionary cure for consumption, and he has been driven to look for this cure because his wife and his children are suffering, and in order to test it or experiment on it, he agrees to house 40 prisoners who are suffering from consumption at his home in Cornwall. And then we have a storyline 40 years later. A young woman called Hester is trying to escape something in her present life. She goes to this property in Cornwall, and there she meets the daughter of Dr. Pinecroft, who I believe is almost entirely mute and now partially paralysed. And I think Hester is going to begin to uncover some unsettling things about her new location. So yeah, very intrigued to see how this stacks up to the corset, because I just adored that. I absolutely flew through it. It was atmospheric, it was dark, it was gothic, it just ticked so many boxes for me, and I really hope that this one does the same. On to the first randomly selected book. I only went for 2 randomly selected ones this time to put specifically on my TBR. That's not to say that I won't use that random selector later on in these 3 months, but I just went for 2 to begin with. So the first one is The Gloaming by Kirsty Logan, and I'm just going to read you the blurb because honestly I don't feel like I could paraphrase it any better. Mara's island is one of stories and magic, but every story ends in the same way. She will finish her days on the cliff, turned to stone and gazing out at the horizon like all the islanders before her. Mara's parents, a boxer and a ballerina, chose this enchanted place as a refuge from the turbulence of their previous lives. They wanted to bring up their children somewhere special and safe, but the island and the sea don't care what people want, and when they claim a price from her family, Mara's world unravels. It takes the arrival of Pearl, mysterious and irresistible, to light a spark in Mara again and allow her to consider a different story for herself. The Gloaming is a gorgeous tale of love and grief and the gap between fairy tales and real life. I mean, if that doesn't sound like the perfect escapism story for autumn, then I don't know what does. Very excited to read this, very intrigued. It's one of those books that I've had on my shelves for quite a while. I was sent it actually by the publisher, and then I kind of ummed and ahed over whether I wanted to pick it up or not, and now my hand has been forced. So forced, that makes it sound very negative. I'm pleased that it's been thrown up. So yeah, I will let you know in due course what I think. Quick correction, it's actually 3 randomly selected books, not 2. I don't know why I thought it was 2, but I was wrong. So the next randomly chosen one was Small Pleasures by Claire Chambers. This is actually one of my newer purchases, but I'm kind of glad that it's been thrown up because I picked it up because I suddenly saw it everywhere. It was on Instagram, it was on BookTube, it was in the windows of bookshops everywhere that I went. I've just hit the door in my enthusiasm. You know, it just was a book that kept popping up, and I kind of skimmed the back and thought, yeah, I'm interested, but I don't think that it's the type of book that I would typically choose to reach for. So I'm interested to see how I find it and what I think. Essentially, it's set in the 1950s, and we're following a journalist called Jean who is sent to write a story and investigate a woman who is claiming that their baby is the result of a virgin birth, and Jean is basically sent to discover whether it is indeed a miracle or if she is pulling the wool over everyone's eyes. It definitely gives me The Wonder by Emma Donoghue vibes, which is a very similar setup. A young girl is claiming that she's been blessed by God, no longer needs to eat or drink, and a Nightingale nurse is sent from Britain to Ireland to watch and observe and see whether it is actually happening, whether it is a miracle or whether again it's a fraud. So very similar, although I think this is probably a slightly different tone. I don't know. If you've read it, let me know what you thought. I'm kind of on the fence. I'll either love it or I think I really won't like it. And I quickly read the first page, which helped me not at all. So yeah, it's on here. I'll give it a go. Let me know if you've already read it and what you thought. And then the final randomly selected book was Starfish by Akemi Dawn Bowman. Again, I'm going to cheat and read the back because I don't think that I could summarise it any better. Kiko Himura has always had a hard time saying exactly what she's thinking. With a mother who makes her feel unremarkable and a half-Japanese heritage she doesn't quite understand, Kiko prefers to keep her head down, certain that once she makes it into her dream art school Prism, her real life will begin. But then Kiko doesn't get into Prism at the same time as her abusive uncle moves back in with her family. So when she receives an invitation from her childhood friend to leave her small town and tour art schools on the West Coast, Kiko jumps at the opportunity, in spite of the anxieties and fears that attempt to hold her back. And now that she is finally free to be her own person outside the constricting walls of her home life, Kiko learns transformative truths about herself, her past, and how to be brave. A luminous, heartbreaking story of identity, family, and the beauty that emerges when we embrace our true selves. So there you go, this is YA. If you don't know, I had a very quick look online when it was thrown up by the random generator, and it has got rave reviews, so very much looking forward to this one. And then the final books that I'm really going to quickly talk about in my, was it mid-year recap video? I referenced the Ember in the Ashes series as a series that I wanted to finish before, I wanted to read and I wanted to finish before the end of the year. So I have the first three, which are An Ember in the Ashes, Torch Against the Night, and Reaper at the Gates. These may be books that I read in the winter, but obviously with it nearly being the end of the year, I may start them this season. So yeah, the fourth one came out this year, so I can add that to my TBR, and I can pick it up when I can. But yeah, so they are also a possibility. And then, as I mentioned, there are some non-fictions. I'm just going to briefly show you, I'm not going to go into too much detail about what they are about. So we have Entitled by Kate Mann, How Male Privilege Hurts Women. We have Poverty Safari by Darren McGarvey, Understanding the Anger of Britain's Underclass. This one is particularly relevant to me because of the work that I do. And then we have Afua Hirsch, British, on Race, Identity and Belonging. So as I said, I'm not sure of these three. As you can see, they're all slightly different topics, but of these three I may read them all, I may read one, I may read two. I will definitely have to look up if they are available on audiobook, because I find it's always nice to listen to non-fiction on audio as well. So yeah, that may determine how many I manage to get read, but I'm adding those to my list as well. And that is it. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I have talked about and added to my TBR. Let me know if I should prioritize any, or if you think I won't enjoy any, or you think I'm going to love them. Let me know your predictions in the comments down below. Don't know what the words are that I'm saying. Yeah, as always, thank you very much for watching. Give me the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, all the usual stuff. I hope that you are all keeping safe and well. Take care, and I'll see you soon.